Hello and welcome back to Rogue Trader. Last time we finally reached the governor. We fought a Herald of Tzeentch, which, considering all the Tzeentch signs everywhere, was kind of just a matter of time before that was going to happen. And we finally got to leave. And now we have options. So depending on if we want to be a goofy goober or not, we can go to Owlcat 5 and get our navigator. We can go to Rykadi Philia, which I believe is the prison colony, and get nothing. We could go back to Rykadi Minoris and get our new Inquisitor. We're gonna go to Rykadi Majoris first, because we got the scans of the planet to tell us there's a ship. Lord Captain, sorry to disturb you. Vigdis pauses as if listening to something. It's pandemonium outside the bridge gate. One of the officers seems to be demanding an audience with you in person. I think I hear Master Wersarian's voice. In any case, I wanted to warn you in advance. The everyday sounds of the bridge are disrupted by voices raised in anger, Abelard's voice the loudest of all. This is not the conduct of an officer. These are the antics of a high-born brat out on a lark. Explain yourself, Lieutenant. The young woman standing before Abelard strives with all her might not to quail under the onslaught of her superior's anger. She falters, but then manages to look him in the eye and say, I apologize, sir, but I must speak to the Lord Captain. Very well, Lieutenant, you may address the Lord Captain, not least because I see you have already seen fit to disturb him. Your unauthorized appearance on the bridge and display of belligerence towards a high-ranking officer will be logged on your personal file without delay. Lord Captain, Lieutenant Avrilla Vent, requesting permission to speak. Vent falls silent, then adds rashly, on a matter of extreme importance and urgency. I will listen to what you have to say. Speak, Lieutenant. This matter cannot wait. Any minute now, an assault unit will be dispatched to the lower decks on orders to crush the workers' strike by any means necessary, but I am convinced that this step is unwarranted, and that the crisis itself was provoked by the actions of one of the senior officers. Vent is almost trembling with tension as she delivers her speech, her face extremely pale. Abelard, in no hurry to intervene, lets out a skeptical huff. Lord Captain, I urge you to investigate the actions of Seneschal Wersarian and to intervene in what's happening on the lower decks, because very soon we will have a mutiny or a massacre on our hands. Vent reels off the last words as though she knows them by heart. She has clearly been preparing to say them for some time. When she's finished, she casts an anxious glance at Abelard, then at you. There's an insurrection in the making aboard my ship, and no one has informed me. I would not deem it a problem worthy of the rogue trader's attention. The lower decks, as it so happens, are in revolt. 30-some years ago, we even had a revolutionary leader rise up who dared to establish workers' rule across the entire ship. It took a month to restore order, but even 8 years later, we were still battling rumors that the hero had survived his execution and was on the verge of gathering people to fight against tyranny once more. Abelard scoffs. Needless to say, the rumors were baseless. As for the current situation, we have sufficient enforcers to deal with it. But on this ship, the word of the Lord Captain carries more weight than a salvo from 100 bolters. I'm sure that if the rogue trader addresses the malcontents directly, he will quell the unrest. I dread to think what problem you will disturb the rogue trader with next. Perhaps you will ask the Lord Captain to break up brawls in the mess room. I have already given you the means to resolve this problem, you simply need to use them. If I may, your lordship, sending a hit squad to crush the rebellion is a means of ignoring the problem, not solving it. How did this all start? The situation could boil over at any minute, so I'll give you the condensed version. It all began when the enforcers found a cultist on the body of someone who'd been killed in a drunken brawl. We reported up the chain immediately, arranged for a cleansing rite to be performed, and opened an investigation. No heretics have been found alive, but the search has brought tensions between enforcers and workers to a head. Where does Seneschal Wersarian come into all this? I shall explain, Abelard intones grimly. I beg you to hurry, time is running out. I will not hurry since my competence is under scrutiny. I shall speak for as long as I see fit. There is an established order to the way things are done on this ship, and one of the pillars of that system is that the rogue trader's attention is not distracted by trivial matters. It is the Seneschal's role to ensure that. I have always handled internal problems myself, so of course when I received information about cultists hiding in the lower decks, I took the matter in hand. So long as I live, not one of the vermin who murdered Theodora von Valancius will find refuge on her ship. You are too heavy-handed, Seneschal Wersarian. Arrests, interrogations, mass punishments for entire sectors. It has driven people to the brink, Vent says bitterly. Now there is a strike on the lower decks, in Depot 4 to be precise. 3 worker clans are involved, but many more are passively supporting them. The situation could degenerate into an all-out insurrection, but when I reported my concerns, the only response I received was an order to dispatch an assault unit and crush the strike with maximum force. Abelard, what do you have to say to this? I see no need to add anything. I acted within the remit of my authority, guided exclusively by the best interests of your protectorate and your personal safety. If you wish to confirm the rectitude of my actions for yourself, I have no objections. For my part, I urge the Lord Captain to go down to the lower decks, stop the assault unit, and speak directly to the people. You will see that they are not lying or harboring heretics. That way you will stop the uprising before it begins. What is Depot 4? Depot 4 is one of the poorest sectors on the lower decks. It is home to clans of general laborers. They are not as valuable to the ship as the families who have served its specialized systems for generations. They are an easily replaceable resource, and one which is now more besides, giving succor to cultists and minions of the archenemy. Depot 4 is poor and troubled, but at worst that means drunken fights and illegal rotgut brewing. We have handled the workers of Depot 4 in the past. We would have done so again if the crackdown on Depot 4 hadn't been so harsh. And another important point to bear in mind, the problem is not limited to this sector. It is located in one of the most populated lower decks, and everything that happens there has a knock-on effect on all the neighboring sectors. I've heard enough. I'll go down to the lower decks and deal with the problem personally. Praise the Emperor. Vent cannot contain her relief. Thank you, Lord Captain. Abelard grits his teeth slightly. An enterprise bordering on the sophomoric, but please please yourself, Lord Captain. However, I categorically insist that I escort you. Abelard reflexively wipes the sweat from his brow in a startlingly human gesture, and a telling one. A rare moment where he allows his age and weariness to show through his armor like veneer of self-assurance. The lower decks are a source of endless problems. Sometimes I dearly regret that we cannot replace all the locals with servitors. Did you hear they were shouting your name? Of course they were. The organization of the daily routine life of the ship rests upon my shoulders. The mountain of challenges and problems from which I endeavor to insulate you, Lord Captain. The situation on the lower decks has been a cause for concern, and I have intervened personally on more than one occasion. That must be why they remember me. They do not know your face. To them, you are akin to a creature of legend. One who has stood on the steps of the Golden Throne no less. Whereas I am the man whose name is attached to every order docking rations or lowering a base heating. People dare disrespect a senior officer. They would not have the chance to express such disrespect if we were not here, and if the situation had been dealt with by the relevant officers, Abelard grimaces. It's a junior officer's worst failing, to pass problems up the chain of command. I have never been able to abide it. I shall say it again. It was a mistake to come here on Lieutenant Vent's whim, Lord Captain. I must admit that the lieutenant is by no means the worst material for an officer, Abelard adds peevishly, but in the name of Terra, the girl is the same age as my eldest great-granddaughter, and she has the gall to tell me how to manage the lower decks and hunt down cultists. It will be another 20 years at least before she can be trusted to act without oversight. Let's keep moving, we need to get to the bottom of this. I do like this whole idea that these ships are so massive, you can have people who, they never see the captain. That you are literally a mythological figment. That entire clans of people can live in a deck, and that's their thing. The sounds of a heated discussion reverberate through the ship's bays. Lieutenant Avrilla Vent of the ship's enforcers is barring the path of a heavily built assault unit officer, and judging by their expressions and tone, the standoff has dragged on for some time already, and has now reached boiling point. I have my orders to put an end to the unrest and purge this sector. You can take your orders and shove them. This is my deck and my sector. There are only 3 people who can waltz in here without my express permission. The first officer, the rogue trader, and the Emperor himself. So not all my lessons fall on deaf ears, Abelard mutters in crabby approval. He does not clarify whether he means Lieutenant Vent, the officer looming over her, or both. Your lordship, noticing you, the 2 junior officers snap to attention and salute, their subordinates following suit a moment later. What is the situation? Your lordship, my people have locked down the bay where the strikers are, including their leaders. We have the situation under control as far as resources allow. We encountered some locals on our way here. Their conduct was outrageous. They even tried to throw things at us. Vent paled slightly. The people are getting desperate, clearly. They saw the assault unit and they decided they had nothing left to lose. I mean, I apologize, Lord Captain. It is outrageous. I'm sure the people simply did not recognize you. It wouldn't have occurred otherwise. We will deal with them once the current situation is resolved. Is that all you have to say? Are you sure you're worthy of an officer's rank, Lieutenant Vent? Vent pales slightly but straightens up and clips out. Forgive me, Lord Captain, I will take steps to ensure such a thing does not happen again. I want to speak to the strikers. Abelard's mouth twists, but he restrains himself and says nothing. Right you are, Lord Captain. Allow me to wish you good luck. Hope gleams in Lieutenant Vent's eyes. And I'm going to walk away and explore the rest of this place first. Because, like this container, we have to twist a bunch of knobs later on. It's completely optional, but I'm going to do it because it's loot. It's free stuff. Who am I to say no? Also, if you're playing this, get used to this room. Like this room, this chamber, because this is one of the tile sets recycled for when you have things happen on your ship, like the warp. Typically here I get like, there's a bunch of Nurgle cultists who just like appeared, have fun, and it's just a bunch of dudes I just wallop. But it is useful or it is good to use these tile sets multiple times, because it's your ship. You're not gonna just like never come here again. I'd appreciate a couple more tile sets, but given these probably aren't, I mean, I know for a fact these aren't like just snap together kind of proc gen things, it's fine. A dozen pair of eyes stare apprehensively at you. The people before you are typical inhabitants of the lower decks. You take in their simple clothing, crude weapons, and faces that display varying levels of mutation, from the barely discernible to the strange to the outright grotesque. A whisper passes through the crowd and you detect a mixture of fear, astonishment, and joy in their reactions. Finally, 3 people break away from the crowd, an elderly woman and 2 men. These must be the leaders. They bow clumsily before you. Lord Captain, you have come down to us. Tell me what is troubling you, why are you striking? Striking? That's news to us, your lordship, says a tall, thin man in worker's garb. All we're doing is asking questions, saying what we think. Shut up, Rivet, snaps the old woman, who turns her hostile dark eyes to you. Here's the deal, your lordship. Your damned enforcers are all over us down here. They say they're looking for cultists. One wrong word and they're reaching for their batons. If they want to punish someone, they turn off the heating to the whole base for a week or two, or for a week at a time, so we get sick and freeze. In my clan, 2 little ones died from inflammation in their lungs. all because of those enforcers. The old woman spits on the floor and rubs at the spittle with the toe of her worn-out shoe. Argenta does not interrupt the workers, but you can see the sadness well in her eyes when the children's deaths are mentioned. She quietly whispers a requiem prayer and makes a sign over herself. It's all true. Vent is the only officer who stood up for us. It's as clear as day there who had a mother from the lower decks and who grew up amidships and has no fellow feeling towards us. The grim man with a scarred face throws up his arms. Your lordship, we're no villains here. We're honest workers, your servants. We've plotted no disorder, we went on strike openly, and now we've got guns pointed at us. All we're doing is asking to be allowed to work in peace without being harassed. The persecutions started apropos of nothing, you say. I was told one of you was found in possession of a cultist amulet, and that there were heretics hiding here. A cultist amulet? What's that? The gewgaw we found on the dead drunkard? If it was something evil or forbidden, we sure didn't know. The enforcers just said they were looking for heretics among us, and anyone obstructing their investigation would be punished. But how could there be heretics here? We know our own people, there have been no new faces around. Definitely not, and if there was, we'd be the first to report them. As for the amulet, or whatever it is, they took it off a dead body. There are no cultists still breathing in our sector, that's for sure. But when the fight broke out, some enterprising folks looted the bodies. The boots they came back with, nobody's ever tread these decks in boots so fine, I can tell you that. Seems to me these cultists have better commanders than us. Oh yeah, those boots really were fine. And there was no harm in taking them, right? As for the amulet, it must have been pocketed by someone who didn't know any better. We don't need any amulets around here. We all worship the Emperor, and when we're working we bow down before the machine spirits of the large and small transformers and the servo motor, the same way my grandfather was taught 100 years ago by a tech priest who came calling. Believe us, your lordship, we are people of faith. I can confirm the information regarding the proper tending of the machine spirits in this sector. Servitors indicate that these commoners are performing the sacraments they are permitted to know. Naive children, weren't you taught from an early age about the dangers of the archenemy's creations? Weren't you warned that any unfamiliar object could be one of them? We were told, Holy Sister, but it was long ago. The last time we saw a confessor in our sector, it was just after I had had my third little one. That is regrettable, but you cannot lay the burden of leading a righteous life on the shoulders of the Holy Fathers. Who will you blame when beasts crawl out of those amulets you stole from the heretics? The Holy Father who is not there, or the scavenger who brought evil down upon himself and his neighbors? Abelard, do you have anything to add? I authorize the use of all necessary measures to locate Chaos worshippers hiding in this sector. The specific steps taken by the officers were not reported to me. Abelard frowns, clearly disgruntled at having to explain himself in the workers' presence. Nevertheless, I am certain that their actions were justified. Cultists are no drunken stevedores. They are the enemy and a threat to the ship. Neutralizing them demands decisive action. We were attacked on the way here. How do you explain that? Here's an explanation for you. These people have been pushed to their limit, and now they're lashing out. As if we don't know why those top deck units were being sent down here. Like that one there that the lieutenant won't let pass. Our clans are all inside the bay that's been sealed off, but the lower decks are big. I'm sure there are some people who've had just about enough. We're getting it from all sides. The soldiers have encircled the ones who've risen up. A death squad has just arrived. It's no wonder folks are lashing out. Their words seem sincere to you. Their body language and glances traded between them reveals that the news of the attack has shocked them. What changes do you want? Well, would you look at this? The exalted Lord Captain himself is asking us bilge rats what we want. Well, here's what we want. We want you to rein in your damned enforcers, to quit turning off the heat, and to stop battering everything that moves. No, that's not it. We want the enforcers gone from here, and we want to be armed. Give us arms, and we'll govern ourselves. We'll defend ourselves if these cultists do show their faces. I've been the leader of my clan for 20 years now. Getting rid of these club-wielding thugs can only improve things around here. You've gone too far, old man. They'll never let the maggots on the lower decks live without the enforcers breathing down their necks. They probably even insist on the enforcers on the upper decks, too. As for weapons, what do we need them for? Before the first day is out, we'll have someone shooting their neighbor out of stupidity or drunkenness. We don't need that. If the enforcers stop hassling us, that'll be enough. In return, we'll find the scavengers who robbed the cultist bodies and we'll talk to them. One lower decker to another. If there are any more of those damned amulets about, we'll hand them over to the enforcers ourselves. You speak for yourself and your clan, and I'll speak for me and mine. I don't want empty gestures, I want real change. They'll promise us the world now, but as soon as the Anointed One turns his back, those brutes will be on us even harder than before. All because we dared to speak out. The tall worker's eyes dart between the two arguing leaders. Every few seconds he opens his mouth as if planning to agree, but each time he falls silent, simply making a few vague noises of approval. Spreading anarchy in the ship is the first step toward embracing chaos. Putting weapons into untrained hands could be even worse. What's more, the enforcers are needed to maintain oversight and order. Withdraw those demands and we'll consider the rest. The tall worker they call Rivet shrugs and casts a sidelong look at the old woman. Old Nan, listen. The Lord Captain himself has come down to us and is offering concessions. I don't know a single person in the whole of Depot 4 who's ever stood next to the rogue trader, let alone talk to them. Back down, now is no time for you to be a stubborn old crone. Listen to us, old Nan. The 3 clans of Depot 4 ought to act as one. We've made our minds up, it's your turn to decide. Don't ask them to disband the enforcers or give us weapons. We don't need any of that. The old woman hisses in dissatisfaction. You two are ganging up on me, is that it? So brave are you against an old woman. But I'll shut up. I will indeed. I won't go against 2 clan leaders on my own. If you want to make peace with the enforcers, make your peace. That's great. Just fantastic. Lord Captain, we're all agreed. Thoughts, Abelard? The story about scavenging for boots and accidentally picking up a heretical amulet doesn't convince me. These people were moments away from rebelling and possibly becoming minions of the archenemy. We must not give them what they want, even if they acquire something innocently, purely out of their own stupidity. That does not mean they are not tainted with corruption. What begins as petty thievery can turn into a far graver problem. I've seen it before. Abelard's face darkens momentarily. In my second war, there was a sergeant in the Imperial Guard regiment that was stationed nearby. The sergeant took an ordinary pocket knife from the body of a heretic, and his whole unit lost their lives for it. When they finally managed to break into the barracks, they found not a single survivor, only the pocket knife, which had grown through all the rows of beds like a metal choking vine. So when it comes to scavengers, malcontents, strikers, or whatever they'll turn into next, my verdict is simple. Give them no quarter. Then it is decided. The persecution will stop and I will expect you to assist in locating any remaining amulets or weapons left by the cultists. Your lordship, thank you. You have not abandoned us lower deckers. You came yourself and settled everything. I'll tell my grandchildren about this. Of course, your lordship. We'll root out any nasty business faster than the enforcers, and we'll leave no stone unturned. So much reading. Now we get to run around twisting valves. I want to do it, even though it's kind of boring, because I don't remember what all we get. And it's also just, like, literally running around twisting valves. It's not that difficult. I do like these little kind of side distractions of, here's just some little thing going on. A peek into everybody's life. I think you have to look for which one's emitting steam. Stopping unexpectedly, Abelard imperiously dismisses the unit to stand at a distance and addresses your other companions, saying, "I have an urgent matter to discuss with the Lord Captain. Please give us a moment." Abelard looks at you and his last vestiges of restraint vanish. "Well, are you pleased with your investigation, Lord Captain? You kowtowed to the disloyal rabble. You believed their lies and showed them leniency. Next time the ship is attacked by cultists, that rabble will welcome them with open arms and allow them to wreak havoc whatever havoc they like. Because they see you as a weak leader. Is that how you see your future at the helm of the Von Valancius Protectorate?" Let's talk about your role in all this instead. You allowed this revolt to happen, your actions practically guaranteed it would. I could have handled this situation myself had you not decided to intervene, Abelard says irascibly. "Remember Lord Captain Theodora, do you think she ever set one slippered foot on the lower decks? No, she did not. Such matters were left to myself and the junior officers while she dedicated herself to her grand designs for the Protectorate, as any true strategist and rogue trader ought." Maybe if Theodora had spent more time on trifling matters, she wouldn't have wound up dead. This is a new Lord Captain aboard this ship now, and I will not repeat her mistake. Abelard looks at you stunned and exhales loudly, then he nods curtly. "I commend your decisiveness, but I am uncomfortable with introducing new protocols in the midst of a crisis." And Abelard stands straight at attention. "I lost my temper, Lord Captain, and I believe I ought to explain myself." Abelard speaks slowly, the words not coming easily to him. "The prosperity of the Von Valancius Protectorate is not just an empty phrase to me. I left the Imperial Navy for the chance to see it flourish. It was the most monumentous decision of my life, and I did it because I saw in Lord Captain Theodora's deeds signs of true greatness. Rogue traders do not simply forge new routes and capture worlds, they create order out of anarchy. That creative impulse was entirely lacking during my time in the military. So I left behind everything I had known, everything my family had known. I came from a long line of officers, and I embarked on this incredibly reckless venture. Lord Captain Theodora entrusted me with all the concerns she had no time for. She would go off on her flagship for long periods to distant frontiers on scouting voyages, and the advancement of the entire Protectorate rested on my shoulders, and then suddenly, everything that had been built over years and years began to quake, rattling like a flimsy hangar on a seismically active world. One of the senior officers betrayed us all. The rogue trader was killed, and who knows what is happening on the planet. I tell you this honestly, without fear of appearing weak, as all this has come as a grievous blow to me. I'm not panicking or grieving because I cannot allow myself to panic or grieve. I am duty-bound to aid the new rogue trader, to aid you, to find your footing as quickly as possible, and to do that I must insulate you from problems that in the past have been dealt with by tried and true procedures set out in the ship's regulations. Procedures that were established long ago and have functioned smoothly for decades cannot surely be deemed access to requirements. Theodora trusted in established procedures, and she died. I won't make the same mistake. If you want to keep building the future of the Von Valancius Protectorate with me, stop living in the past. Abelard solemnly inclines his head. Yes, Lord Captain. After a moment's silence, he adds, looking at you with interest. Your resolve is admirable and demonstrates strong leadership. I shall remember this moment should my old habits ever begin to creep back in. And now, please, let us leave the lower decks. If the rogue trader desires to stretch his legs, there are far more suitable places. Valves! Yay! And it's a bunch of bombs. Well, that's useful. We can use a bunch of that. Okay, let's continue to Majoris. Augurs notice a large object among the lifeless rocks covering the planet. A void ship whose signal and origin are impossible to identify from orbit is resting on the edge of a deep ravine. The hull of the unidentified vessel is severely damaged, rocks around it shattered by the force of the gigantic machine's crash landing. The Augurs haven't detected any vital signs aboard or near the vessel. Send a squad to the planet to explore the void ship. The landing party reports via Vox as soon as they touch down, the colossal void ship before them is covered with spikes. It resembles a morbid beast sculpted from darkness itself, menacingly hanging over the ravine. An experienced veteran accurately determines the origin of the unholy vessel. It belongs to the Xenos race called Drukhari. Ready to collapse at any moment, the void ship emits a long, woeful creak, as if promising to drag along into the abyss anyone who dares disturb its slumber. Rogue Trader orders the more people be sent to the Xenos void ship to collect any valuable findings. Monstrous contraptions designed to mince, rip apart, and incinerate their victims took the soldiers by surprise, but were neutralized before the squad suffered significant losses. Soldiers found several curious pieces of xenotech on the sinister void ship, but no data that could shed light on why it came to the Rykadi system. Yay. And we'll go to Rykadi Philia, because this is an easy run. Alright, let's get our level up quick. These aren't that great of buffs. I mean, the temp wounds aren't bad, but it's also going to be real little. Nice, we can get Psi rating 1. Which, yeah, we'll get it. Get willpower. Taunting Scream is good. because the rest of these are kinda eh. Combat Master's good because melee superiority is if enough enemies surround him, they get attack bonuses, so if we just stop that, he can get surrounded and do just fine. Boost psi rating. And everything's just kinda middle of the road here. We'll give her Medicae, even though it's not super important. Controlled shot is good. Instant exposure. Because even though there are some good ones here, like... I mean, really any of these. But for the moment, I think kind of boosting exposure is going to be good. Because we'll need that. Comprehensive analysis. Actually, I don't think we can get comprehensive analysis. That's fine. Instant exposure is more important. The pale young woman looks at you with a mixture of hope and disbelief swirling in her eyes. You notice her hands trembling as she clutches her weapon. Who are you? Did you come from the planet? Are you reinforcements? Saint's teeth, I thought you'd never come. What happened here? There's been a prison riot on the Planetoid. Sadly, it is being led by the prison warden himself, the Honorable Anathagon Casteglia. He has allied himself with the rabble that he himself was supposed to watch and declared Rykadi Philia to be independent of the authority of the system's lawful governor. I came here as a shuttle pilot alongside the Honorable Evane Winterscale, son of Caligos Winterscale, rogue trader, vanquisher of Xenos, forever triumphant over the enemies of humanity. She details, enunciating every word of her overlord's title. Young Lord Winterscale wished to speak to the warden personally so he could put an end to this lawless treason. He and his escort went ahead, and she grows paler. I haven't been able to contact them over Vox for a very long time now. Why would the young Winterscale have felt the need to parley with dissidents? She sighs quietly. It's a personal matter. Master Casteglia, the seditious warden, is Lord Yvain's childhood friend. When my lord heard of the riot, the news saddened him greatly, and so he rushed here without delay, in hopes of bringing his old friend to his senses, no doubt. The first winter scale in my memory who prefers to talk rather than shoot and slash. She smiles faintly. Young Lord Winterscale is not his father's shadow. If he is determined to save his friend, he won't back down. I pray to the throne that he is alive and well. He's been gone for such a long time, and I don't really like this place. The warden himself is spearheading the riot? Yes, she bites her lip. No one expected this. Master Casteglia is a nobleman from a respected governor house and a vassal to House Winterscale. All of a sudden, he proclaimed that Rykadi Philia was now his personal domain and that the prisoners were his subjects, and that he would never bow to anyone again. It's pure heresy. And I take it that they're looking forward to a diet of sand and gravel. What kind of madman would start a revolt on a barren rock? Is this prison riot connected to the Planetary Rebellion? It seems more likely that Warden Casteglia learned about the rebellion on Rykad Minoris and decided to use the situation to his advantage. I can't say for certain, perhaps no one can. Governor Medina has always preferred to shoot rebels rather than inquire about their motives and connections. Looking for a man by the name of Henrix Van Calix, is he here perhaps? Unless he's one of the prisoners or guards, then it seems unlikely. There are no shuttles in working order other than yours and mine. There's nothing anyone else could have used to reach this place. I have no more questions. You may excuse yourself, pilot. The woman freezes for a moment before asking hesitantly, Your Lordship, if I may have a minute of your time, I wouldn't ever have dared to trouble you with a personal matter, but the situation. In any case, have you been to the capital of Rykad Minoris yet? I wanted to ask if you saw a man there, a communications officer by the name of Jaspar. You need not worry, Jaspar is alive. She lets out a long sigh. You can see the relief gleaming in her eyes. You can't imagine how much I needed to hear that. Thank you. She bows. You can tell by the desperation in her eyes that she is exhausted, frightened, and wishes to be off this planetoid as soon as possible. Let's go.
The future you see could be the whispers of the archenemy. How can you trust your visions, Adira?
I don't think that's the question you wanted to ask. What you wanted to ask was, how can others bring themselves to trust a despicable psyker like me? Face it, sister. Not everybody's as pig-headed as you are.
Alright, I'm not going to read these diaries because these get kind of long. So, I'm just going to give you the lightning round. Guy got sent to prison. What happened is he realizes the way they're treating the prisoners is weird. And he starts talking about how the prisoner, like the warden, is referring to people as like perfects and whatnot, and kind of creating this caste system. And the perfects are given permission to do anything they want to the lower ranks, and essentially rewarding people who do better and all this. And what eventually happens is the guy realizes this and begins to kind of use... He gets a high rank And then he eventually finds out, like, what's going on is it isn't just like, oh, it's just a really eccentric prison warden. It's actually more of these guys are, the warden's crazy, and it becomes kind of a cult thing. And that's where we end up. I can go through and leave the stuff on the screen for you guys to read. It's just, there's so much reading in this episode. God, this guy's just running everywhere.
momentum.
Argenta, don't you find it difficult to be without your sisters? You are a soldier without a squad.
I will fight alongside my sisters again. But my present fate is not a burden to me. No matter where I go, or who I am with, I bring death to heretics. That is what matters.
Alright, screw it, I changed my mind, I'll read it. Because it's only like 2 things, and I'm here, so Grok shit. Why me? Why? I missed my tithe payment 12 years ago. 12 years. The inspector's writ got lost somewhere in the bowels of the Planetary Administratum and was lying there this whole time, but they made sure to remember to tack on the fines every month. By the time they found the blasted paper and finally informed me, the total sum was so obscene it would take 3 generations of my descendants, if I had any, to pay it off. Thus my fate was sealed. Trial sentence, prison. All because some daft rotter who shoved my paperwork in the wrong box. To be fair, I think I got off pretty easy. My bed in the barracks is about as hard as a slab of rockcrete I've got at home. Working in the quarry isn't much tougher than my old job, and the rules, void take me. That old sod that governs Rykadi Minoris is a bloody sadist by comparison. It's a strange old place. I haven't been beaten once yet. The guards bark orders all the time, but they never hit us. They also got this kind of inner circle of special chosen prisoners, the Optimatum they call it. If you can get in, Emperor as my witness, you get an actual day off. They let you out of your cell and into the yard by the big barracks. And I tell you what, they let you rest there and feed you better than whatever swill they're giving us in the canteen. They told me it's to improve our motivation and all that, to foster a stronger desire to reform and become a worthy servant of the Imperium once more. But I know it for what it is. Just a club for the Warden's favorites. The same story as everywhere else. Suck up to the people in power and get some swanky perks. They say the whole thing wasn't the Warden's idea. Funny man, our Warden. He looks more noble than nobility itself. Tall, groomed, teeth even. Eyes burning, boots so polished you can see yourself when you move to lick 'em. But the nutter doesn't much want people licking his boots. He walks around looking like he's deep in thought, alright, but with only a couple of guards at his side. And he sometimes, if you can believe it, talks to prisoners. What's your name, he asks them all quiet like. Why were you condemned? Do you feel remorse? He never even yells at no one, never orders them to have them flogged. Instead, he doles rewards out to the special ones. Keeps telling us things like how we should strive to make society believe in us again. Whatever you say, Master Warden. Starting tomorrow, I'm trying to join these optimates of yours. I'm stuck in here till the day I die, and that means no return to society for me. With the Emperor's help, I might just join the ranks of the local elite. Ha ha ha, I swear the Emperor hasn't forsaken me. Guess who just came down the shuttle gangway among the fresh batch of prisoners? Clenson Throne-Damned Willia, former Administratum clerk, no, the clerk, the very same scum who lost the writ about missing payment. He's the reason I'm in this hole. Don't know what they threw him in for, but I've never felt better in my life. He's not just behind the same bars as me, he's fresh meat, and I'm a venerable optimate respected by everyone in the colony. The Warden just came up with a new improvement. From now on, anyone who underperforms, misbehaves, or causes trouble any other way is to be punished by the community. specifically by the local best and brightest, yours truly, the Optimates. The last 2 sods who failed to meet the quota were stripped naked, whipped and thrown into cages in the big barracks. That's where they have to eat, sleep, and shit now with everyone watching. I thought to myself then, that isn't right, they've taken those punishments too far. But now, just you wait, you piece of grok shit. I've got you for something. I'll get you for something. Those cages are calling your name. Kinda reminds me of the Stanford prison experiment. Hello, I'd like my local warp person to come here, please. That be a key. I'm scared. I should have known all that charity from the warden was going to bring nothing but trouble. No noble, no matter how barmy, would pull anything of the sort. But that man, it started with little things. The warden would come by to talk as he did, except he used to ask us questions before, and now he's mostly gushing sermons, some gibberish about a path to purgation, the sanctity of sacrifice, seeing with blinded eyes. I listened and nodded. Yes, Master Warden. Of course, Master Warden. He could say whatever rubbish he wanted as long as the tasty Optimate meals kept coming. I thought everyone else was doing the same, nodding just to please the big man. I was wrong. After that, people in the barracks started yapping on about purgation and blindness too. Apparently us Optimates were no longer just the Warden's favorites. We were, Emperor forgive me, prophets of some kind, who were meant to save the rest of this sorry lot, or awaken them, or make them see some rubbish along those lines. People were now supposed to make sacrifices to Optimates. Yesterday, the sap who slept in the bed under me in my first year here cut off his own damn ear and crawled on his knees toward me. He handed me the ear and begged me not to forsake him when the fateful hour had come. What in the throne am I supposed to do with an ear? Why is everyone, every single one, staring at me all the time? The warden said the time is nigh, that fate had truly great things in store for the Optimates. I went to look how my good friend Clenson is doing. He hasn't spoken for 3 months ever since I had all his top teeth ripped out. He spoke today. He looked straight at me and said, "Dead man." I kept hitting him until it hurt me. Now my fist and feet are all bruised. Half the barracks stood there and watched and prayed. I'm scared. Yeah, just summarizing it just doesn't get quite the horror down of the hell is going on in this place. Thank the throne, normal-looking faces. We thought we were going to die here with these nutters. The old man with a gap-toothed smile drops his weapon and holds his hands out in a placating gesture. Please don't shoot us, your nobleness. Let us speak a word. Well, this is a welcome change. Talking before shooting. Still, Lord Captain, the look of this ragtag bunch hardly inspires trust. I came across a void ship in the system belonging to your associates. They told me some interesting things about you and your planned escape. The man gruffs, huffs, then makes up his mind. Well, now that's out of the bag. Our fellows were supposed to come get us a long time ago, but they got tied up elsewhere. Void Kraken's gullet with them. And in all this time we had to wait. This happened. pardon me for trying to pull the synth wool over you. It's just that we want nothing to do with this whole warden nonsense. So what now? Will you let us go? Adira cracks her neck. Sure, no problem. Today you tell us a little lie, tomorrow you stick a torpedo in our side from that ship of yours. If it doesn't fall apart the moment our helmsman sneezes in its general direction. Give me a reason not to execute you on the spot. Here's the deal. We're honest, quiet inmates. We didn't want to riot, but, well, sitting it out really wasn't an option either. The warden's lapdogs made short work of those who refused to join in the festivities, so we had to, play along. But that's all it was. Play. We never meant no offense to Governor Medina, nor to the lawful authority of House Winterscale. Give us a chance, eh? We just want to wait until everything blows over and we can go back to our cells and quietly do the rest of our time. Pascal inquires demurely, Does the fact that this serf is presently confined and therefore has previously betrayed the trust of the Imperium servant need to be vocalized, or is it evidence to the late persons uninitiated in the sacred mysteries of logic? A repentant, honest heretic. How novel. Judging by Abelard's tone, the Seneschal is utterly unimpressed by the old man's ingratiating monologue. Tell me more about the warden and the riot. Pah, why soil your tongue talking about that heretic? But if you insist, here's how it is. The warden of this here prison, the Honorable Master Casteglia, was a crackpot from the start. The previous warden ran things the proper way. Prayer, 1 meal a day, work, a punch in the chompers from the guards, work again. But the new one, do you know what his first decree was? He introduced lunches and dinners. By the 9 devils, that's 3 meals a day. The man was obviously stark raving mad. Things only went downhill from there. The guards quit it with the teeth punching, the warden forbade them. Instead, the overseers started counting which prisoners were digging up more things in the quarry or swinging their pickaxes harder or whatnot, and then, would you believe it, they put together a list of best workers, and if someone on the list also showed good behavior, then that's when you get promoted to an optimate. That's the upper crust among us jailbirds. Or that's how it was at first. Then the warden decided it's the optimates, not the guards, who should be in charge of punishments, and that it wasn't the overseer's job to watch the prisoners work, it was the optimates. Well, let me tell you, that's when these goody two-shoes really started to shine. The guards aren't even in the same league as our dear fellows, the optimates. In the old days, we had 5 or 10 stiffs kicking it a week, and now, well, we were lucky if it was only 50. And that wasn't even the end of it. Warden Casteglia moved out of his chambers to live right in the quarry, under the dome, and I think something in his new home really scrambled his brain. He began spouting the wildest things like the optimates are saints who will behold the truth, and he started taking them to the quarry. Not all of them returned. The ones who did, you wouldn't recognize them, more beast than man. They were butchering people left and right, even guards and overseers. The warden himself had armed them, and that's the whole sob story. But I knew it from the moment he let us have dinners. Oh, this won't end well. Adira nods knowingly. The old codger's right. Whenever nobles start giving handouts to commoners, something always goes wrong. She notices you look and catches herself. I mean that with all due respect, your lordship, no offense intended. If I spare you, what do I gain from it? Now how can lowly jailbirds hope to thank your noble self? I have an inkling. You see, us here, we're, how should I put this, different from the rest of the prisoners in this place. They're all petty thieves from Rykadi Minoris, debtors, gutter snipes. There's no one serious. Now we, your nobleness, are cut from a different cloth altogether. We're fortune seekers from the void. Why don't we tell you we're on Footfall Station? You know Footfall, the only shipyard and the best market in all the Coronis expanse. Yes, so where on Footfall you can find some very serious business-minded people, and how you can get yourself a very special discount from them on some very special goods. What kind of very serious people? The most serious kind, your nobleness. Have you heard about the Fellowship of the Void? It's the largest pirate alliance in the Expanse. There's no leader, of course, but there are some terribly serious captains who decided that cutting each other's throats over loot was, counterproductive. But cutting throats together, that's anti-counterproductive. And while their joint efforts leave them with an excess of spoils, they need to dispose of it somehow, and I, your nobleness, just have happen to know someone who handles such kinds of dealings on behalf of those very serious people. Very well, I shall spare you. Oh, that's so great to hear, your nobleness, just great. Now there's a true aristocrat, not the warden creep. Now then, your nobleness, where was I? If you're ever on Footfall Station, there's this district there, the Shadow Quarters. It's called that because it's located behind the Prophet, the statue of our holiest emperor. I've known folks who call it something else, also on account of it being behind the statue. Don't repeat their mistakes. I tell you, Reverend Hieronymus wasted no time finding and burning them all. Forgive an old man for getting distracted. So, Footfall. Shadow Quarters, there's a bar there built into the remains of an old ship, and in that bar, in the back room, a certain Ryza does her business. Tell her Grandpa Bakval says hello. He'll be her favorite client in the blink of an eye. There we are. Now, well, your nobleness, we'll be going now if you don't mind. Iconoclast. I shall not leave you here to die at the hands of the warden's henchmen. Go tell my pilot that it is the Lord Captain's orders that you be sent to my ship. You will join my ship's crew. You have my personal pardon as a rogue trader. Thanks. We're most grateful, your nobleness. The old man glances at you somewhat skeptically, then smiles and leaves. Let's go, plant a charge. Damn, just a las gun. Yeah, got a piercing splinter cannon that we cannot use. It's cool, but it is... We can't use it. Have to have really high strength and Drakari weapon proficiency. And then, yeah, you can do some fun stuff with it, because it does toxic damage. But... it'll, like, do poison debuffs, but it's currently out of our reach. So we can go that way to the main level, but we're gonna loop around this way. Like always, I apologize when I screw up reading. I'm not a public speaker or read aloud kind of person. Might as well grab all the loot while we're here before we start the fight. I told you, Evie, they're hiding so much from us. Arrogant mentors, holy brothers and sisters. What have they ever given us? Nothing but a pile of fibs and useless admonitions. The voice of the man standing with his back to you sounds almost soft. Heedless of everything but what is right in front of him, he leans over a prisoner dressed in expensive clothing. I accidentally hit that. As the warden is speaking, a strange sensation draws your attention toward the ground, specifically an open pit in the loose dirt. A single word spontaneously surfaces in your mind: cradle. The pit itself does not appear to be of much interest, but at some point it housed something of great importance, something faintly familiar to you. Also, I think he just gouged out his eye. Which is what we missed on accident. The Warden's words are suddenly drowned out by a chorus of voices in your head. The entity that still dwells in the recesses of your mind rejoices in a cacophony of cries. This place, it holds great significance for the entity. In the frantic chanting of the voices, you can almost make out words that speak of an ancient grave. One that was opened, for it contained a priceless treasure, a most coveted prize that was retrieved by the faithful after a centuries-long search. The pit, there's something special about it. Is there not? An item of value is once buried there. Now tell me, Warden, what was the item and who took it from here? The Warden's gaze bores into you, then he smiles with the corners of his lips. You are too late, enemy of the truth. This bastion has already fulfilled its great purpose. You will never find the trail of the reclaimed relic that now rests in the hands of the devout. Who is Aurora? Oh, so you've managed to barge in here and interfere with the prophetess's designs without even knowing who she is. But it is too late now. You'll never attain sight. All you can do is accept your fate. He suddenly stirs like a predatory beast. I do not like it when people take the prophetess Aurora's name in vain. I desire your death, enemy of the truth. The Warden raises his hand, and the maimed people start thrashing about in their death throes. The time for words has passed, Optimists. Give your power to this harbinger of Aurora. Let our foes see the truth, or become awash in blood. So, Abelard there. You can take a place next to the lens. You can take cover there. You there. And me here. Cool. Get our endure up and then just go nuts for donuts. And this all works out because we're right next to a lens that we can start bonking. Yep, perils of the warp. It had to happen eventually. And we get a demonette. Joy.
To the brink of agony. Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, that's why we're replacing Adira as soon as possible. Because that crap gets real old real fast. But we'll try to take out these guys. Oh my god. Fine. We will deal with everybody else while the demonette is just hanging out right there. It shouldn't be that difficult. A lot of these guys are pretty flimsy. Don't you love that? Not even within Perils of the Warp range normally, but because it's Adira and she's an unsanctioned psyker, it just gets to happen. Absolute kick in the teeth. And I want to keep getting Revelant Slaughter stacks going, because it just makes my job easier. Too bad I can't get a scream at her to pull her all the way into this fight. She's just gonna keep causing problems. Guess my other option here is try to reposition Adira. I just don't want to pull her out of cover. Might as well give yourself dodge chance. God knows you're gonna need it.
I am unsatisfied.
Okay, so we can take shots. Cool.
To the brink of agony.
Now we're just gonna keep putting stacks on her, because we need to actually destroy the lenses, because those play into this fight. Now that's all dealt with, but Adira's probably gonna go down. I was really hoping I could get voice of command on her, but I guess I already did it, which kind of sucks because the extra HP would have been useful. Honestly, I'm thinking of just having Adira run for it and just hide back here. Like, give all the buffs she can and just kind of call it quits. Because even though if she goes down, it's not a big deal. I don't like having people go down. Yeah, we'll give her a turn. Kind of wish this mechanic was going on Rykadi Minoris, because this is kind of cool, but it's weird that it's just like, oh yeah, it happens here. Okay, where's my cursor? Boy, I love when the cursor bugs out. Yeah, I'm gonna need someone else to come over here with a melee weapon, because hitting it with the stick isn't exactly gonna get me very far. Also, I want to see something. What's his passive here? Demonic Strike. Huh. A whole 9 damage. At the rate we're going, it's gonna take a while. You know what? Yeah, let's use our special move here. Hey, we blew up the lens. Good. I don't have line of sight to that. Okay. Little sus. We also could just not attack him. And then wait till all the lenses are down, then kill him. But where's the fun in that? Finally. Okay, let's get all the loot. I don't believe we've been properly introduced. Blood is bubbling on the young man's lips, and his voice is barely audible, but even now it remains melodious and quite courteous. Yvain Winterscale, Af Cronus, greatly pleased to make your acquaintance. Conserve your strength, you are wounded and need help. Wounded? I would have phrased it altogether differently. Tortured and maimed, perhaps? Have you ever had your eyes burned out? This was my first time. I cannot say I recommend the procedure. He's either trying to make light of the situation or growing delirious from the pain. I must take my leave. I will see to it that assistance is provided to you and that you are escorted from here. He nods, giving into oblivion. Alright, now let's just loot this whole place. Game, please let me loot the prisoner. And there's the sniper rifle for Pascal. We got a lot to work with now. Because those las rifles have way better ammo capacity. And there's the guy whose journals we've been reading, Ati Shan. The rebellion has been crushed, and I have news of your lord. She anxiously pitches forward. Is Lord Winterscale okay? Is he alright? He is alive but badly wounded. Help my people get him to my ship. There are glimmers of panic in the pilot's gaze, but she quickly pulls herself together. It will be done immediately. Thank you for letting me know, your lordship. Is there anything I should be appraised of? Some of the rebels have holed up in the barracks. I don't know how many, but given this is the only way through... Okay, yeah, so this is if I didn't ask prior. Alright, and that is all for now. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the like button. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.